Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Welcome back to Restauranttopia. We have Robin Gagnon on again. She's on today talking about all the things that you need to know when you're buying a restaurant. You have one operation, no operations, you want to get in the restaurant business or open another unit. Robin's going to give you the pro tips that she sees when she's involved in multiple transactions every year. She's from resellrestaurants.com. You're going to love this episode. Check it out. Robin, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. And
I appreciate you being back on. No, this is great.
Yeah, I love talking about this subject. I'm convinced that the Food Network is the greatest thing that ever happened to those wanting to buy a restaurant because it looks so easy. And so people come to me every day and they say, oh, I want to buy a restaurant.
Yeah.
This is such a sexy, glamorous world. and I tell them maybe go work in one first and then come back and we'll talk about it. But that is actually a pro tip for someone seeking to buy a restaurant. Make sure you understand this industry. It's an amazing industry. Those of us that are close to it, we love the hospitality. We love the idea of fulfillment, of breaking bread with others and sharing what we do in a very meaningful and impactful way. It's also a tough business on many, many levels. And I know from all your writings and all your podcasts, you know that better than anyone else. So as we're working with buyers, we help them to kind of assess themselves. We have this tool we call the restaurant assessment tool, which really kind of are you up for late nights? Because we actually have buyers who will come to us. They're young, they're in their 30s, and they buy a bar and they run the bar till 3 a.m. every night. And then guess what? They get married and all of a sudden they come back like 4 years later and they're like, oh, my wife and I are expecting, I got to get to something. So let me flip that into a sandwich concept so I can be home every day. So a lot of it is based on what is the lifestyle of the buyer? What are they looking for? Are they looking for pure cash flow? Are they motivated by lifestyle issues? Getting to that motivation, helping them assess what they want, then we can put them on the path of the right restaurant.
I think that's where it starts. It's a self-assessment. It is, who are you? What kind of operator do you want to be? The fun side of the restaurant business everyone knows about. And just because you make a good lasagna does not mean you're going to be a great restaurateur. But to really self-assess and understand, am I going to be able to miss every single one of my son's soccer games? Am I going to be able to be working late on Fridays and Saturdays? Those sorts of things, I think, is a little bit of a culture shock to a lot of new restaurant owners.
It absolutely is. And that's why you're right. It starts with that self-assessment and really understanding how much commitment you have to the process as well. And we recommend people take a long period of time to really understand the business, especially if they haven't worked in the business. There's no such thing as mailbox money in the restaurant world. We tell people who, want an absentee investment, they're better off to buy restaurant stocks and publicly traded companies because there really isn't an absentee scenario. You can buy a business that has great management in place and it will be gone tomorrow. So you've got to have someone who's fully invested and lined up to go into the business. And they also have to have other key critical things. They have to have great credit scores. They have to be willing to share their financial experience and their other experience, restaurant or management, in order to even be qualified. Sometimes we have sellers who they're passing on a legacy. So they want to understand exactly who this person is coming in and buying the business. We have lenders who are looking for certain experience and credentials. And then one of the toughest is just the landlords, right? Like our book, Appetite for Acquisition, is an entire path of the buyer's journey and have an entire chapter dedicated to the landlord who is definitely not your friend in the transaction. That landlord can make or break a scenario, can make or break a restaurant in so many ways. Either approve or disapprove the buyer, put them under unrealistic, crazy personal guarantees that never end, and or make their occupancy rate so high that they'll never be able to succeed in the business itself. So there's a lot of gotchas in the path of buying a restaurant, and you really need someone to guide you and mentor you through that process.
That's where I think the existing operator, the restaurateur, not the wannabe restaurateur, has such a leg up over all of these people who are just trying to put their toe in the hospitality world. This is where I think is a great opportunity for a single unit operator to become a 2-unit operator, or a 4-unit operator to get his 5th unit. This is such a great path versus opening up a brand new location, doing a full build out. The acquisition strategy, I think, is so strong as a move to grow your organization. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think you must have read our book, because another chapter is called Build It or Buy It. And
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge fan. You just buy this business, because I see so many restaurant owners who start from the ground up with a cold gray space, and then by the
Yep.
time they get to the end and they've built this Taj Mahal of a restaurant, they have no money left to operate. They have no cash in the bank to market and drive people to the business, versus buying something that's fully equipped, open and operating, or even maybe a closed restaurant space that's already
Yeah.
equipped. You can just turn the key, put
Mm-hmm.
a fresh coat of paint on it, and turn it around. Get that going, get your reputation going, grow, build, and then go and do the next one, layer it on. But absolutely, I absolutely agree. You should buy something existing versus building it from the ground up.
Yeah, I think with the potential downturn that we're seeing come to the American economy is really a great opportunity for existing restaurateurs to get to get into existing spaces. I had a customer of Hillcrest. They were going to do, in the same building, we're going to do a new restaurant. The other tenant went out of business. He asked the landlord if they leased that spot. It was existing. They're going to turnkey it for about $100,000 with the buyout and everything, versus probably $350 to $450 to do a full build out of a white box. So that's obviously the financial upside on that. But the timeline is now down to 45 days versus 6 months to a year.
Absolutely. And you keyed into something very important. We talk about that time is money. So getting your concept to market, you may
Mm-hmm.
be beating the other guy who's got the same idea, but if you're
Yeah.
first to market, you're going to get that customer. And right now, with supply chain issues that have been happening for probably a year, 18 months, we have people who are, stuck waiting to open a restaurant because they can't get that second and third fryer or flat top delivered, versus
Yeah.
you buy something that's turnkey. That's the biggest benefit. You can be in business immediately.
So it's a lot easier to get one, refurbished fryer than a whole kitchen. I agree with you there. I just had a operator tell me that it took him, the Pepsi machine took like almost 6 months to get. And it was unbelievable, to see those types of interruptions in your business because of supply chain. They're real. We don't live in a just-in-time society anymore where you can just pick up a phone and get something really reasonable really quickly.
You're exactly right. Absolutely.
So what other things should people be looking for when, hey, I'm going to buy an existing unit? Where do I start? Where do I look?
So here's something I would tell you, Brian, that I see businesses all the time which are making a lot of money today.
Mm-hmm.
But and we always tell people you have to go and visit and experience the customer. We tell them to go as a secret shopper, undercover boss. That's you. Just go in, check out the restaurant without ever violating confidentiality or asking any questions of the staff or owner, and check it out. And I will see somebody go into a restaurant once they've seen the numbers, go into the restaurant and come out and go, oh, gosh, it's a little worn out, and the benches are kind of threadbare. I walked in first thing in the morning, and I could smell like stale beer. And I was like, that is the smell of money.
Mm-hmm.
That business is making money. It's profitable today. And it's something that has demonstrated earnings on the books. And then they will say, well, but then I looked at another restaurant, and this may be an asset sale, but somebody wants a lot of money for it because they put that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. It's
Mm-hmm.
not yet making any money. They're like, but this one's beautiful. So I would just say, don't be swayed by the beauty of the restaurant. Really dig into the financials, the fundamentals of the business. If it's making money today, unless you're a turnaround guy. And some people are great turnaround guys, and they know how to market, and they know how to drive digital advertising, and they know how to, work a market and get people in the door. If that's who you are, then yes, buy something that's beautiful that you can turn around, that's not making money today. But otherwise, rely on the fundamentals of the business. That look back is the best predictor of the future success of the business.
You got to have enough revenue to make moves. And if you're going into a business that's a turnaround, the disadvantage is you don't have that revenue. So do you want to make a good unit better, or do you want to make a bad unit good? I mean, it's a lot easier to make a good unit better. And when you have that revenue coming in, you can do the marketing things that you want to do. You can do the investment in your staff. You can do the investment in freshening up the place. But when it all comes out of pocket, that can be a long road.
And the biggest, I literally just had a conversation 2 nights ago with a seller who contacted me. He had $400,000 in his build out, but
Okay.
he got $149,000 in TI money. So he thought he was a hero. And I said, but how much is your rent? $9,600 a month. I said, you do understand when you take that tenant improvement money, it's literally loan sharking that the landlord is doing. He's building it back into your rates. And it's just, and people don't realize it. If your occupant, in his case, his occupancy cost, it was, close to $100,000 a year. And he was doing $600,000. I said, you have to double your sales to even have hope at profitability. So be careful, even if you're looking at that turnaround, be realistic, because if you're handcuffed to a terrible lease and horrible occupancy costs, that is a hill you can't overcome. That who doubles revenue? It's just a terrible situation to be in.
No, that's tough. And getting into a good lease is so important to make sure that you're not handcuffed to a sinking ship, because that lease is forever as long as you're operating that business. So you have a bad week, you still got to pay rent. You got a snowstorm, you got to pay rent. You got political unrest, you still got to pay rent. All these things that happen in the normal course of society and life that are going to affect your business, you're still going to have to pay rent. So getting in at a good rent rate and really understanding that rent. What is a triple net lease? Well, a triple net lease means the only thing your landlord is responsible for is accepting your check. You are on the hook for everything else. So you're on the hook for insurance. You're on the hook for taxes. You're on the hook for rent and common area maintenance. And what does that common area maintenance look like? And, in some of the more sophisticated common area maintenance, that also includes one of the staff members of the leasing company. So you're also on the hook for a percentage of $75,000 employee. It's like, geez, can I pay for everything? And it's like, yeah, that's what a triple net lease is.
That is probably the best description of a triple net lease that I've ever heard. That's fabulous. And the other thing I would say is, because we do so many transfers, people go into these leases. It's not just as long as you operate the business. They sign up for these personal guarantees that are in perpetuity forever. Yeah. So a single piece of advice for a buyer is, anytime you're going into a situation or any new, make sure you have some kind of termination on that personal guarantee. It's limited in some way to a dollar amount, to a certain number of years, to the minute that it's transferred to someone else. There are multiple ways to diminish the impact of that personal guarantee. But I have restaurants that I'm turning over, and the guy from 3 leases back is still on that personal guarantee. The restaurant fails, he's on the hook. So just be very careful about what you're signing up for. Don't go into it blind, and never, ever, ever just call the guy on the lease sign. He doesn't work for you. He works for the landlord. He's working against your best interest.
That's great advice, Robin, on the personal guarantee. What I'm seeing a lot is the burn off. So personal guarantee burns off at the 36-month point. But also, if the landlord didn't put any money into the TI, I like to see that to be 12 months or no personal guarantee at all. I mean, push back on that as far as, if you're investing in this landlord space, personal guarantee is not 100% required. It's something that's a negotiable term that you can push back on. And I think it's something that more restaurateurs need to think about and really push back on, and whether or not that is a good space if there's an arduous or an overwhelmingly bad personal guarantee.
Absolutely. That is the number one thing that is, it makes it an encumbrance to transfer, because then that landlord wants the personal guarantee. They're never happy with just the one that they have. We transfer it to a new owner, and then they want to layer that person's personal guarantee on. So I would say it's the single more important than even rate or anything else. I'd rather see you pay more and not have a personal guarantee. And I'm not in favor of big leases. The
Yeah.
other thing is contain your expectations. Start small, Brian. They don't have to have, especially the shrinking footprint of the
Hmm.
restaurant space
Yeah.
with all the delivery. Just rethink how efficient you can be in that kitchen, how big that kitchen needs to be, how big your dining needs to be, what you can really produce in volume. Because I've seen people do $1 million out of 1,800 square feet. You don't
Yeah.
need
I,
4,500
I've,
square
I've,
feet anymore, unless you're Olive Garden or something.
I've seen people do $1 million out of 900 square feet. I mean, it's definitely possible with DoorDash and fast casual concepts. So I think that is great advice. Think about the footprint, and even if 3,500 square foot unit, can you get 1,800 square foot? Can you subdivide it? What are the options there that landlord will help you with? And even if it's an existing restaurant, can you still subdivide that and put a cell phone store next door to me, and let me just have the kitchen and part of the lobby? So those are the sorts of things that you got to think about as a operator when you're going into looking at a lease situation, because there's a lot of pitfalls.
Absolutely. And run your numbers up front. Make sure you are able to, and we have templates on our website, resellrestaurants.com, for business plans, but run those numbers up front and look
Hmm.
at the space in your restaurant plus what percent you're going to do
Hmm.
outside the business, and really make sure that if you're projecting 1,200,000 in a space, so that's why you're signing up for this $9,600 a month lease, is
Yeah.
that realistic? Is it realistic across this concept? Is it other peer groups? Is it realistic for other size restaurants for the demographics in your market? And literally think about how many people you're going, how many covers you have to turn, how
Yeah.
frequently, and is that realistic in your market? Because I see business plans that are absolutely unrealistic. Like, you look at the menu, and the average price on the menu is $8.75. And then you look at what their projections are in sales, and every single person's going to spend $40. The two things don't match up. So you really, spend some time, read, understand the industry, listen to podcasts like yours, spend some time on your website, on my website, get yourselves familiar with the industry before you put those unrealistic business plans out there and tie yourself to something that's not going to be profitable for the long term.
Yeah, I see that a lot with people not understanding the business. And what we do is we suggest that they do a mid, and max kind of projections, and really run those numbers and what does it look like. And because it's possible. What if this restaurant does $600,000 in sales the first 18 months, the first year, that you could have a real problem. So run those numbers. You're probably not going to be the next $7 million bar restaurant concept. So what does it look like if you do 1, 2? And, you'd be pleasantly surprised. You do great numbers, but as long as you set everything up right, you're in a good lease, and you're in a good situation.
Worst case scenario, you blow away your projections, you need a second location. Then you buy it. It
Yep.
just kind of takes us full circle to where we started the conversation today. Then you buy a second location. Then you've got something with some legitimacy and proof of concept, and you can repeat it. Just continue to keep those fundamentals in check and your space in line with your projections.
Awesome. No, Robin, thank you so much. We're going to plug your book and your website on restauranttopia.com. Check it out. This is going to be a great episode for anyone that's really looking to get into the restaurant business or to expand their current footprint into another space. Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate your time.
Great. Enjoyed it, Brian. Thanks so much.
This is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restauranttopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restauranttopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.